All right, we are 2 minutes past 5:30. I'd like to get the October meeting of the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee started. My name is Eric Friedman. I am Assistant Executive Director for Public Affairs at the Campaign Finance Board. My pronouns are he, him. I am middle-aged white male. I've got graying hair. I've got headphones on, a button-down shirt that's white with a blue kind of quarter-zip shirt on top of it. I'm in front of a off-white background with the words NYC votes appearing behind me. Just for awareness, there's a short visual description that's an accessibility moment that if I would like folks to emulate as they start off their presentations could provide a short visual description for folks who join us who are visual challenges to help enhance their accessibility to the hearing. I will say before getting into tonight's program, I just want to welcome everyone and thanks for joining us. Tonight's meeting of the committee is not a public hearing, so we won't be taking questions from the public. But if you do have questions for us about anything you see here tonight, please feel free to send us an email to press@nyccfb.info. Before I hand it over to CFB Executive Director Paul Ryan, I would acknowledge that we are joined by Christopher Malone, who is a member of the committee. Chris, if you'd like to jump on and say hello before we start. If you have any opening remarks, I invite you to do so.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, everyone. I'm Christopher Malone. I am also a middle-aged white male with black rimmed glasses. My pronouns are he, him. Graying hair. I'm sort of colorblind, so I think my background is an NYC votes. I think it's purple, but I'm not, maybe blue. I know my sweater is sort of purple with a white checkered shirt. I will say I do know this. I'm coming from the center of the universe, 10 minutes from Citi Field here in Queens. I do have my New York Mets cap handy. So when we end, we will watch the Mets win the game tonight, certainly. I have been on this committee for 4 years now, 4.5 years. I was appointed by Bill de Blasio. And there's my 2-year-old boy yelling out right on cue. And I am an associate provost in political science professor at Farmingdale State College. So happy to be here. And I'm going to mute so you don't hear him.
All right. So thank you, Chris. I'm going to ask Paul Ryan, Executive Director of the CFB, to kick us off with some opening remarks.
Welcome, everyone, to our 4th Voter Assistance Advisory Committee meeting of the year. I want to join Eric in thanking you all for joining us this evening as we ramp up to this general election on November 5th. My name is Paul Seamus Ryan, and as Eric had mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Campaign Finance Board. I'm a later middle-aged white man with short brown hair, gray hair. I'm wearing a blue shirt tonight and a gray jacket, and I am seated in front of a purplish blue virtual background. Before saying more about the upcoming elections, I want to share a bit of exciting Campaign Finance Board news. Last month, after a months-long open hiring search with a very strong candidate pool, I promoted longtime Campaign Finance Board staff member Amanda Melillo to the role of First Deputy Executive Director. This is a new role at the agency. As First Deputy, Amanda will be my strategic advisor, will assume executive responsibility for the agency if ever I am absent, and will represent the agency at hearings, meetings, events like this one that I am unable to attend. But more importantly, Amanda will build and lead a new strategy, products, and innovation division, managing collaboration across the agency to chart the future course of the agency, including, but not limited to, our NYC Votes work. I'm really thrilled to work with Amanda in this role. Turning back to the upcoming elections, first, a friendly reminder that The November election is now just 20 days away. This year, New Yorkers will not just be voting for the President and Vice President of the United States, but also for members of Congress, state assembly members, and state senators. New Yorkers will also be voting on 6 ballot proposals, which we will learn more about later in tonight's meeting. I have a few important dates to remember for you to remember ahead of the election. Sunday, October 26th, just 10 days away, is the start of early voting. October 26th is the last day for the Board of Elections to accept an application for an early mail ballot, absentee ballot, or voter registration form by mail, online portal, email, or fax. October 26th is also the deadline by which voter registration applications must be received by the Board of Elections by mail or in person. Registering to vote online takes less than a few minutes, and you could do so at www.nycvotes.org. Early voting begins Saturday, October 26th and ends on Sunday, November 3rd. Monday, November 4th is the last day to apply in person at the Board of Elections for an early mail ballot or absentee ballot. And finally, Tuesday, November 5th is Election Day and the last day to postmark early mail ballots and absentee ballot return envelopes, as well as the last day to deliver a voted early mail or absentee ballot in person at the Board of Elections or drop it off at a poll site. So with the general election just weeks away, we're going to spend the rest of our time together this evening digging into the work we are doing at NYC Votes alongside our partner organizations and communities throughout the city to engage voters, get folks registered to vote, and let voters know what to expect on the ballot this year. After a presentation on our voter engagement and registration work, we will also hear from our team of policy experts at NYC Votes on the 6 ballot proposals that New Yorkers will find when they flip over their ballots. I want to reiterate for folks on the call that we are a nonpartisan agency. We don't tell you who or what to vote for. We just want New Yorkers to have the tools and resources to go out and vote. Every day, our work is driven by this mission so that New York, its leaders, and its policies reflect the diverse perspectives, experiences, and communities of this city. With that, I will turn it over to Gauri Patel, the Associate Director of Partnerships, and Leah Saramedis, the Content Strategist with our Marketing and Digital Communications teams for their presentation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leah Saramedis. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman with blonde curly hair, and I've got a bit of a blurred background behind me, and I'm wearing a white shirt with a white sweater underneath. And I'm really overjoyed to share with you some of the work that the team on which I sit at CFB has been doing to help get out the vote and inform our audiences about what's on their ballot for the upcoming election. So in early September, our team sort of kicked off the campaign for the general election with National Voter Registration Day. Next slide, please. So for National Voter Registration Day, our team did a brief campaign from September 9th through September 17th, September 17th being the actual National Voter Registration Day. And that short campaign had a lot of outstanding outcomes. Overall, our team reached almost 537,000 non-registered individuals. The campaign received 11.1 million impressions across Meta, that's Facebook, Google, and programmatic placements. Almost 50,000 total clicks on all of our outgoing communications and almost 300 data capture submissions. This outreach helped over 1,300 New Yorkers register to vote or update their registration by checking their status and taking our pledge to vote in every election. That pledge to vote resulted in 938 pledge cards completed, 277 voter registration forms collected, and almost 150 people registered via TurboVote and 112 folks checking their registration. Our public relations team also was very active during this time. There was 10 news placements that related to our work in National Voter Registration Day and 4 PR interviews. So let's talk a little bit about our digital targeting. That's how we take zip codes that Google over indexes for unregistered individuals to ensure that the ads that we are placing reach those who have not yet registered to vote. So this makes sure we really get the most bang for our buck, so to speak, and reach as many people who have not yet registered as possible. We targeted these unregistered individuals using national voter file data. And the 2 images here show some of the promotional materials and creative efforts our team did in several different languages. There's a purple background with a kind of cream colored copy and a yellow button that prompts folks to get registered. So some of the results from this outreach: all of our Instagram and Meta ads resulted in 261 conversions. This means people who clicked and then took an action based on seeing that ad. Google search ads in our targeted languages were very successful with a click-through rate of 23.9%. We're really proud to report that. And to that end, Spanish continues to generate the highest number of clicks from Google search during this campaign, just over 1,800 clicks. So let's talk about the NYC Votes website for National Voter Registration Day. During this campaign, the website received over 150% increase in our average visitorship during this time of year, with 118,705 visitors. Of those 118,000, over 101,000 were new visitors, people who had never been on our site before. And we put out an article on our brand new news site on our website, and it actually ranked 7th in Google searches for National Voter Registration Day information. So, and this is one of my favorite efforts that we put out there. We did a lot of work on the radio and working with Instagram influencers for National Voter Registration Day. Santiago Torres from our language access team spoke on WSKQ FM La Mega for a Spanish language interview. And we also worked with several young folks who have just gotten registered to vote and are influencing folks in their communities to register to vote, to do an influencer campaign with public opinion. And we also worked with the NYC Ferry to do a little vote on the boat, or register to vote on the boat campaign. So we can go to the next slide too, actually here. Thank you. So shifting our focus, offboarding from National Voter Registration Day, and now all eyes on November 5th, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our general election campaign. This information I'm sharing with you is all as of October 7th. As you can imagine, much has changed since then, since we're very much all hands on deck right now, talking about the November election. So far, up to October 7th, we've received 2.5 million video views. We've had almost 8 million impressions across Meta, Google, YouTube, and our programmatic placements, over 10,000 clicks and 2,300 offline ad placements. We're really, really excited to say that 3.4 million impressions were generated among youth voters, one of the main audiences we were trying to reach. Our videos are watched all the way through almost 50% of the time, which, as you can imagine, with the attention span online, is a very good stat to share. And another great stat to share is that a lot of our reach is with non-English speakers. So 4.5 million impressions generated across 8 languages, and 2.2 million of those impressions were for Chinese speakers and 1.8 for Spanish speakers. So what you're looking at are some of our core assets. So these are creative elements we've used for our campaign that basically say there's always a reason to vote. This campaign has built throughout the year. In the April primary, our tagline was, there's always a reason to vote. In the June primary, our tagline was, your vote, NYC's future. And for the November general election, our tagline is, every vote matters, your vote matters. So to explain this a little further, the primaries, each in and of themselves, were very important. And also we recognize we're building sort of some brand recognition for this work of NYC Votes throughout the year. So really what this campaign feels like is a culmination of that. And as you can see here in these images, a lot of these assets are presented in all of our 13 languages. So places that you will see some of these core assets. We've really blanketed the city. I'm curious who on this call has seen some of these ads. I know I have. So static bus shelters, those are the bus shelters that don't move, where they're on the side of the street. And those ads were in 7 different languages. NYC digital live boards, you may see them inside the subway platforms. And those are digital assets, so they move quite frequently. Those were in 5 languages. I think these are a fan favorite, or maybe I'm projecting. These are definitely my favorites. The hand painted murals in all of our key priority neighborhoods. In Sunset Park, we have an excellent hand painted mural that's in Spanish. We also have another one in West Bronx that's in Spanish. They are quite eye catching. I'm a huge fan of these. We've also done several large-scale placements at malls in New York City. You can see one here in Queens Plaza in Bengali, and another one in Queens Plaza in Bengali, and another one in Kings Plaza as well. And this was a new effort that we tried this year, which was programmatic video promotion. So as you can see here, we we did a little commercial, one in English and one in Spanish, also promoting people to register to vote and a reminder to check their registration if they've moved. We're watching a little bit of this right now, and it's just friends gathering, looking over our voter guide. These videos offer some information about early voting, what they can find in the voter guide, and specifically what is a ballot proposal, which obviously you'll hear a little more about later in this call. And just wanted to show you a little bit more of some of these core assets, how they look with all of our different languages. I think they're, forgive me, I think they're incredibly impressive and striking across the board. And again, it's great to see now that how effective they are, since we know the majority of our impressions have been in non-English languages. And now I'll pass it over to my wonderful colleague, Gauri Patel, to talk to you about voter education and outreach. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Leah, so much. My name is Gauri Patel. I use she and her pronouns. I'm a South Asian woman wearing a tan and a pink sweater. I have black rimmed glasses and short black hair. So today I'm going to speak to NYC Votes community outreach and education work. And to do this work, we are working with folks from hundreds of organizations and colleges, libraries, faith-based institutions, community-based organizations, and certain city agencies as well. And I have a slide here with a list of these, just a few of these organizations. And I want to just uplift that although this is a long list of names, each of these relationships was built by a member on our team. And it required deep listening, it required trust building, it required trips all across the city in places in all of the boroughs. And it's through that effort and that intentionality that we've been able to build trust and then reach the communities in our priority neighborhoods across the city. So we have two parts of our work, and first I'll speak to the outreach work. So in terms of our outreach work this fall, we are executing a bunch of different types of events and outreach. They are organized here in 3 pillars. The first being voter registration and pledge to vote drives, the second being large voter activation events, and lastly, our text banks, phone banks, door knocking efforts. All of these activities seek to make a broad scale contact with voters and to get them the information they need for the upcoming election. So far, we've had over 6,000 voters registering with us and over 8,000 voters taking our pledge to vote. So in our outreach work, we meet voters at different points along the spectrum of voting, starting with being like unregistered and disengaged, and progressively moving towards being a frequent voter, not just in presidential elections, but in city and non-presidential elections as well. So here we have a visual representation of our outreach work. The first is a super colorful photo of the NYC Votes team at a Day of Action event under a tent with our Vote boombox conducting outreach to voters in Sunset Park. Days of Action are conducted every month by our staff member, Danny, and he leads this effort as an opportunity for us to establish our presence in priority neighborhoods and be able to interact with voters there. The second photo is, and the one in the middle is our team at the Brooklyn Pride Parade, people getting excited about voting and really being able to reach a large public sort of events and be able to have our marketing and digital communications team working on different assets for these things and bringing a lot of attention and excitement to voting. And then lastly, we have a photo of our NYC Votes volunteers who we could not do this work without. They help us execute our outreach work. This effort is led by Ray Russell on our team, and he helps us manage our volunteers and their efforts in door knocking, having conversations, dropping off literature to voters, recently in Jackson Heights, in Queens, and in Sunset Park in Brooklyn. So just a couple examples of this work. On the side of education and engagement, this consists of, again, 3 main pillars we've organized here. The first being education, that's voter education and civic education. The second being building capacity for organizations and community-based organizations so that they feel equipped to serve the communities and their members. And lastly, our focus on leadership development, namely our paid youth ambassador program led by our wonderful Olivia. So for the next few slides, I'm going to hone in on the first pillar here. So this fall, we are hosting over 60 education events to bring together community members, both virtually and in person. And we're discussing topics like accountability, about campaign finance, about political parties. We're educating folks and going through each of the ballot proposals, voting rights, and more. And of these 60 events or more, 16 of them are being conducted fully in language. And we're covering over 9 languages, centering immigrant and communities and LEP folks. So this model here on the slide, it's an arrow moving from language exclusion to language justice. I wanted to uplift as we are somewhere in between language access and language justice, really trying to push towards creating spaces where the dominant language is deprioritized and we're centering sort of the language, the culture, the needs of the community members. And not only are we providing translated materials or interpretation services, we're actually moving towards training community members so that way the presenter, the materials, and the content is fully developed and delivered in language for and by the community. So the next slide here is just a sample of this work. brought to us by our wonderful language access team. This is a translated slide, curriculum slide that we talk about, where we talk about campaign finance and sort of the difference between a congressional candidate and a city candidate and how their funds may differ. And we use this curriculum at an event in Sunset Park, which is the photo. Can you all hear me? Okay, just gonna turn my video off for a moment. So last slide here, I wanted to uplift our youth work this fall. We have our youth ambassadors hosting education events at their schools all across the city. Last week, our youth team hosted a conference that brought over 80 young people together. They spent the day receiving in-depth training on a number of topics. And then we also have our partnership with CUNY, led by our coordinator Yatna and our team, to train student leaders to conduct voter engagement and education across campuses. So we have a photo on the left side of our ambassadors here. In this photo, they are at a USCIS ceremony registering new citizens to vote. Our education that we offer to the disability community this fall includes a series of events with key partners led by Luke, including Independent Care Systems, Center for Independent of the Disabled, Rights and Recovery, Downstate Adapt, and so many more. And we have a picture here in the center of Luke with a group of organizers in this space. And lastly, we have our education efforts that center systems impacted folks. We work with youth in detention to provide them a path to voting absentee this November. And we're also working with the Department of Corrections and alternative to incarceration programs to make sure everyone understands their voting rights and has voter information to make their voice heard this fall. And a lot of this work is led by Mick on our team, as well as Luke. So I wanted to pause there and just say a huge thank you to PA and our agency for supporting and conducting this work, and for all of you that have supported us.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Gori, and thank you, Leah, for that comprehensive overview of what your teams have been up to in the run up to this really critical, important, historic election in a few weeks. I want to give a few minutes if Chris, on behalf of the committee, or if Paul, if you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to dig into from everything you've just seen before we move on to our second presentation. Hearing none, perhaps we move forward. Paul, do you want to introduce our next presentation?
Yeah, all my questions were answered by the excellent presentation. So I want to thank Gori and Leah for their presentations, for their incredible work, the work of their teams. I'm just so proud to be a colleague in this work with all of you. But now I'm going to turn it over to Sophie Sharps, our policy manager at the Campaign Finance Board, to dig into the 6 proposals that New Yorkers will find on the back of their ballots this year. These ballot proposals can sometimes have confusing jargon, and they can be hard to parse, especially if you don't know what to expect on election day. So Sophie will be breaking down the context of these proposals, how they came about, their implications, and their impact on the lives of New Yorkers. So take it away, Sophie.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening, everyone. As Paul said, my name is Sophie Sharps, and I'm the policy manager here at the CFB. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white woman with blonde hair, and I'm wearing a dark green sweater and have a fun green NYC votes background. In addition to the opportunity this year to vote for candidates for various offices, New Yorkers will get the chance to vote on 6 ballot proposals. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time outlining what ballot proposals are in general, how they got to be on the ballot, and what these 6 in particular say. We go to the next slide. So very high level about a ballot proposal is a law, an issue, or a question that appears on a statewide or local ballot, and you might hear them referred to as initiatives, ballot measures, propositions, or referendum. These are yes or no questions that pass if they receive a majority of votes. Next slide. So this general election, there are 6 proposals on the ballot in New York City. The first proposal is statewide, meaning that it appears on all ballots across the state for all New Yorkers to vote on. And then proposals 2 through 6 are citywide proposals, meaning that they only appear on the ballots in the 5 boroughs. And again, voters can select yes or no on each proposal. So be sure to flip your ballot over and make sure that you've answered all 6 ballot proposals. So there are, as I mentioned, there is 1 statewide proposal. We can move on to the next slide. And there are a few different ways that ballot proposals can end up on the ballot. In the case of ballot proposal 1, thanks, Sarah. Perfect. In the case of ballot proposal 1, it's been a long process for this proposal to end up in the hands of New York voters. This proposal seeks to amend the New York State Constitution, which is the state's governing document. And one of 2 ways to amend the state constitution is through a referendum or a ballot proposal. But first, the amendment has to be proposed in the New York State Senate and Assembly and must pass both chambers of the legislature. And then this process must occur again in the next legislative session. And once the amendment has passed in 2 consecutive legislative sessions, it can then be put on the ballot for voters to decide. And that is exactly where we find ourselves now. Next slide. So that's some background on how the first ballot proposal came to be, and in terms of what it actually is. This ballot proposal would add protections to the state constitution's Bill of Rights to prohibit discrimination on the basis of ethnicity, origin, age, disability, and sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, pregnancy, and pregnancy outcomes. And it would also protect New Yorkers who seek access to reproductive health care from discrimination on that basis. A yes vote puts these protections against discrimination in the New York State Constitution, while a no vote leaves these protections out of the Constitution. If this proposal passes, New Yorkers would be protected under the law from discrimination based on these criteria. Next slide. So on this slide, you can see a comparison of the current language of the Equal Protection Clause and what the clause would look like if the proposal passes. On the left side, you see the current language calls out protections from discrimination against individuals on the basis of race, color, creed, and religion. While on the right side, you see that if passed, the clause would include these additional anti-discrimination protections. So moving on to the 5 citywide proposals, I'll first walk through how they made it onto the ballot and then outline what the proposals actually say. For New York City specifically, there are a few ways that a local law can be subject to referendum, all stemming from the New York State Municipal Home Rule Law, which grants localities powers to regulate quality of life and provide direct services. So I'm going to focus on the way in which these 5 ballot proposals got on the ballot, which was through a New York City Charter Revision Commission. Similar to the state constitution for the New York State, the New York City Charter is the main governing document for the city. And one way to change what's written in the charter is for the city to create a temporary body known as the Charter Revision Commission to review the charter and put forth any proposals for amendment to the voters. So the mayor announced a Charter Revision Commission on May 21st of this year with a particular focus on public safety and fiscal responsibility. The commission of 13 appointed individuals held public hearings and solicited input from the public and produced a preliminary report released 1 month later on June 25th and a final report approved on July 25th and yielding 5 ballot proposals to be voted on in the general election. So now that we know how these 5 citywide proposals came to be, we can dig into what they actually say. And I should note that the text for each ballot proposal is taken directly from our voter guide. The first of the 5 here, which will be the second proposal on your ballot, is broadly known as the Cleaning Public Property Ballot Proposal. Under this proposal, the Department of Sanitation would have increased authority to keep all property clean, including parks and highway medians, and to hold street vendors accountable for following rules at those locations. It would also allow DSNY to regulate how New Yorkers put out their garbage for collection. If it passes, it would clarify the DSNY's authority and jurisdiction to keep the city clean and make rules about how garbage is put out for their collection. Meanwhile, voting no leaves the law unchanged. Ballot Proposal 3 relates to additional estimates of the cost of proposed laws and budget deadlines. The City Council provides cost estimates of the proposed laws before voting on them. This proposal would give the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget the opportunity to provide its own cost estimates before public hearings on these proposed laws. This proposal would also require the council to formally notify the mayor's office before holding public hearings or votes on proposed laws. And lastly, this proposal would extend the deadline for certain budget reports in the first year of a new mayoral administration and would permanently extend the deadline for the mayor to publish their annual city budget. And if it passes, it would establish a new role for the mayor in assessing the cost of laws before they are passed and require that cost estimates from the council and the mayor are available before proposed laws are considered at public hearings. And it would also give the mayor more time to prepare the city's annual budget before it is presented to the council. And voting no leaves this law unchanged. Ballot Proposal 4 relates to more notice and time before votes on public safety legislation. This proposal would require additional public notice and time before the City Council votes on public safety laws that impact the police department, to the Department of Correction, or the fire department. And during this time, the mayor and affected city agencies may also hold public hearings. Meanwhile, voting no leaves the law unchanged. Right, 2 more proposals that you'll see on the ballot. Ballot Proposal 5 relates to capital planning. This proposal would amend the city charter to require more detail in the annual assessment of city facilities, mandate that facility needs inform capital planning, and update capital planning deadlines. If it passes, it would expand criteria used to assess maintenance costs for city property. The proposal would also change the due date for capital planning reports and the date for the associated public hearing. And meanwhile, voting no leaves the law unchanged. And finally, Ballot Proposal 6 relates to minority and women-owned business enterprises, or MWBEs, film permits, and archive review boards. This proposal would revise the charter to create a new role to support MWBEs, would allow the mayor to designate which agency issues film permits, and would merge 2 boards that manage city records into one. And again, voting no leaves the law unchanged. So that is all 6 proposals that you will see on your ballot. So a reminder to flip your ballot over and seek them out. For some additional information on the ballot proposals, you can visit our CFB and NYC Votes websites, and more specifically, our voter guide. As I mentioned, the language that I pulled for these slides on the ballot proposals all came from the voter guide, which should hopefully either be hitting your mailboxes as we speak, or they already have, and is also available online. And in addition to the plain language descriptions of the ballot proposals, the NYC Votes website also includes summaries of the statements that we received from individuals and organizations in support and opposition of these 6 ballot proposals. So you can refer to these summaries for more information. Thanks so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sophie, for that really informative breakdown of the questions the New Yorkers are going to find on the back of their ballot when they go to vote or when they get their ballot for this November's election. You know, amending the state constitution is a really big deal. Amending the city charter is a really big deal, and New Yorkers should take the time to read up and learn about these important questions. So thank you for getting that started, Sophie. Christopher, Paul, Any comments, questions for Sophie about what's on the information that she shared about what New Yorkers are going to find on their ballot?
No questions here, Eric. Thanks.
Same. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Well, I will reiterate what Sophie shared just at the very end of that really great presentation, that folks, if they're looking for more information, can head straight to our online voter guide at nycvotes.org. We requested and received submissions from members of the public and organizations to kind of weigh in on the arguments for and against these questions that are on the back of the ballot. And you can find summaries of them there. Again, that's nycvotes.org. Make sure in the run-up between now and the November election, if you aren't, to be following our channels on social media. Wherever you get your social media, you can find us at NYC Votes, and we'll have information for you between now and November 5th on the deadlines to register, how to get your ballots, how to find your early polling site, and more. NYC Votes on your social media platform of choice. And with that, I just want to thank all of our staff here at the CFB and our Public Affairs Division, not only who presented the work so well, but have really contributed to everything you've seen and heard them talk about tonight. There are many hands across the agency that are part of this work, and I'm just really proud to be associated with everything that we're putting together to help New Yorkers realize their power through the political system, and it's particularly in this year's really critical and important elections. I will pause one last time for any closing remarks from folks here before closing us out.
I'll just say congratulations to Amanda. I don't think she's here tonight, but she's been in previous meetings. It's wonderful to hear of her promotion. So kudos to Amanda. And like in past meetings and past work, the staff is doing tremendous work. So congratulations, excuse me, to all of them as well. And go Mets.
I'll leave the baseball commentary to you guys. Paul, anything to close with before we say goodnight?
No, other than thanking the whole team for putting on a great meeting this evening. Great presentations.
Amazing. Thank you. And just a last reminder, if you are viewing tonight's meeting, have any questions about what you've seen, please feel free to shoot us an email at press@nyccfb.info. Connect with us on the social media channels. And with that, I'm going to close out the October meeting of the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee. Thanks again to everyone who's joined us tonight. And we will see you in December. Good evening, folks.
Sorry for missing everything.
Hi, Danielle.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy trying to do everything simultaneously. So I'm sorry I missed it. And I'm sure the staff did a fabulous job as always. And I hear, you said that Amanda was promoted.
That is correct.
What is her fabulous new title?
She is my first deputy executive director, a new role at the agency. So she will be my right hand.
Well, she really is A, the perfect person for the job, and B, really deserves it. So I don't know if she's still on, but congratulations, Amanda.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks, Danielle.
Likewise.
All right, well,
and we'll pass the kind wishes along for sure.
Yes, please. Okay, thanks. I'm so sorry.
Thank you for logging on. And again, we will see you back for the next meeting of the VAC in December.
Yes, you will. And have a good time, everybody.